Hey, what's up? So last week I did this Nike commercial spec ad, and today I want to give you a little behind the scenes on how I got the specific shots, the gear I used, and the idea behind all of this. So let's get into it. I plan to shoot every scene either on sunset or at sunrise to avoid any harsh light. The running shots were done at around 7 AM at my local track and field arena. I had my camera on the gimbal and simply filmed the ground while running to get this intense start into the video. Normally as a runner you would probably stay in your lane, but I really liked the flashing of the white lines. Before filming this with my gimbal, I did some testing with my phone, which turned out quite well for a smartphone video. Especially if you compare the internal stabilization of the phone versus my camera without a gimbal. So the golf shot was actually one of the easiest because we already had a golf club at home. But as I had no option to film on an actual golf course, I simply filmed in my garden again at sunrise. I really wanted to include this golden light into the shot, which really adds to the image in my opinion. And for comparison, this is a shot filmed in a slightly different angle without the sunlight hitting the golf ball. And it's alright, but it doesn't have this kind of magic, if you know what I mean. For the baseball shot, I used my tripod to film myself, adjusted the manual focus accordingly, and made sure to backlight everything. Meaning that I positioned myself to be between the camera and the sun. I did a couple of different takes with me holding and swinging the bat in different positions, and then did the same thing with the tennis bracket, where I luckily got some help from my brother who held the bracket. The same goes for this shot, which is actually really simple, but one of my favorites. This is the only one where I had to use my 24mm to capture everything I wanted. We did two different takes, one holding the tennis ball and one where he threw it in the air, which is used towards the end of the edit. This was done handheld, and I have to say I'm pretty confident in doing handheld shots most of the time with my wide angle, because I know that I can easily eliminate some jitters in post. The football/soccer shots and basketball shots were also done at sunset. I used my gimbal again for the football shots and had my camera set on continuous autofocus while I was doing some simple tracking shots of him running towards me and then from the side where he kicked the ball in the end. Some people have noticed that my brother was wearing Adidas socks, and I have to say this was actually done intentionally as a joke. So shout out to the people who found this little Easter egg. For the basketball scenes, I would have loved to film like some dribbling or footwork, but as neither my brother or I are professional basketballers, this wasn't really an option, so I focused on capturing some details instead. I actually filmed this exact shot a couple of hours earlier where the sunlight was extremely harsh, and as you can see it had a totally different vibe and wouldn't have fit into the video. And this is the reason why I filmed mostly early in the morning or in the evening to get a type of consistency. The same goes for the surfing shots, where I was extremely lucky that my brother hit me up while I was filming some scenes, asking me if I want to join him on a surfing trip the next day. So this wasn't really initially planned, but I gladly accepted as I already had an underwater housing in my arsenal. Otherwise it would have been either really tricky or not possible at all. I use it actually pretty rarely, but it has served me well until now. I know that some people also go diving with it, which actually terrifies me because it's basically just a plastic bag. But doing shots above the water is totally fine in my opinion. The only downside of doing surfing shots that day was the temperature. It was cold, and I mean extremely cold. We had wetsuits with boots, headpieces and gloves, and without the gloves it wasn't possible to stay longer in the water than 10 seconds. Water shots are actually super tricky to shoot, and I don't mean the thing where you're at the beach using a 600mm telephoto lens. I mean the thing where you're actually in the water getting hit by the waves in this really cold environment, trying to frame everything properly while following your subject. So around 90% of the footage was honestly not even usable. So if you're on your own and don't have that much experience in this kind of environment, like me, it basically comes down to filming a lot and hoping that some shots are actually in focus. Because the surfers wanted to enjoy the time as well and didn't really pose for the camera. So it wasn't really a video shoot per se, but more of a run and gun documentary style of filming. And as I filmed with an 85mm in this cold environment getting hit by the waves, there was actually no way to get a stable video longer than 5 seconds. But I was mainly aiming for 3 seconds and I got some pretty awesome shots as well. And here are some that didn't make it into the final cut. Some of you might ask, why didn't you include some wide shots or medium shots as well to have some shot variety in your ad? So normally it would take extremely long to scout out locations, asking friends to lend me their lighting equipment or gear. But if I concentrate on filming in natural light using tighter shots or simpler compositions, it makes the process much easier to comprehend and speeds up the filming part. If you have not an interesting location around you, try to use the ground or the sky, combined with dynamic or static shots as a background. Don't get me wrong, I would have loved to include some epic wide shots as well, but then I would have had to sacrifice either in quality by not having a pretty background, or in cost and time by looking and getting to a certain location. I also wanted to make the ad a little bit longer, like the most spec ads from Nike seem to be around the 1 minute mark, but then decided against it to keep things short and snappy, which gave me the opportunity to only include the best shots. One thing I haven't talked about yet is sound design. This is arguably the most important part, as it will determine the overall direction and atmosphere of the whole edit. The music you choose is not only essential to support the visuals, but to guide the viewers. That's why I'm stoked to announce that I'm now MusicBed ambassador. So big shout out to everyone at MusicBed. And as sound design is such a big topic in itself, I would like to do a whole video about it in the future. So if you want me to do a breakdown, specifically talking about sound design, music choice, and how I mix original audio with stock sounds, let me know in the comments. Until then, thanks for watching, and I guess we'll see you next time.